Hi, in today's video I'm going to show you how to install Invidious, a open source alternative front end to YouTube, using Podman in about 10 minutes. So let's have a look at some of the features down here. Privacy focused, accounts, no ads. We'll have a look at the GitHub page here. As you can see, it's lightweight, no ads, no tracking, no JavaScript, subscriptions independent from Google, notifications for all subscribed channels. You can import and export your subscriptions from YouTube. So what I'm going to do is take you across here and show you the Invidious front end. So this is what Invidious looks like. You can see here I have all my subscriptions. You can have playlists. You've got popular, trending, and you can search. So what I'll do is I'll open a video here. So we've got a video here. Give this a second. Okay. And it should have actually come up with this in the middle. So let me just double check this. I should have the player style YouTube. So let me just save that and show you the difference. Okay, so that's a bit more familiar. You've got the little button in the middle. So as you'll see here, we've got the player. We have the title, the description, all the comments. You can see this button down here. And if I click play.
What's going on, guys? It's Adam P, and welcome back to more Fascinating News.
So you can see it kicks in straight away. No whirring of the button that you normally get when you're using something like uBlock Origin on YouTube. Nothing like that. So again, here we've got the captions. You can set the quality here. And this will also work with playing video with MPV. So if I just come back out of this a second. Oops, let me just go back here. My bad. Let me just come back. Okay, so what I'll do is come across. You can see here, these are played. So what I'm going to do is just come across and actually play this with MPV. So I'll switch this to the monitor, second display, MPV, give it a second or two.
What's going on, guys? It's Adam P.
And it decides to play on the wrong screen, hang on. Annoyingly, normally it displays on my second screen, but it decided to put display on the first screen. So here we go again, MPV and the URL. Give it a second.
What's going on, guys? It's Adam P, and welcome back to more Fascinating News.
Okay, there. So you can see it's working with MPV. So let's have a look at the settings and the options you've got to play around with. Preload video data, this is the default. You've got dash adaptive quality, and you can change the quality that you want to use. So if you only want 1080p, you can do that. Default comments, you can actually select Reddit comments as well, which I haven't tried. The default captions, show related videos, save playback position. You've got the language, the country, the content country. I changed the player style to YouTube so that you get the little button in the middle. And here's how you can rearrange the default homepage. So you can select tab subscriptions, come up, then the feed menu, which is the little menu underneath. And what you can do is you can also import and export your data. So let's just come back here. So you can see, let me think of something that's playable. So I'll search for the Magpie Channel TV, which I'm already subscribed to. See here. See how quickly it loads up. As soon as I press the play button, it will kick in and start playing. hopefully. And of course, this being a demo, there we go.
What an evening this is turning out to be for Newcastle United. As always, we don't do anything by any half measures. It's been absolute madness.
There we go. You can also see we have the pop out here. So we got the pop out picture in picture with the little button there. So you got everything you would have on YouTube, and you can see I'm subscribed here. You got all the comments. So how do you get this set up? So what I'm going to do is take you through the notes here. So literally this will take you about 10 minutes or so to get everything set up. So first of all, what you need is Podman or Docker installed. I'm using Podman, so I'll take you through the script that I'm using to actually start this up, and any changes you'll need to make. So first of all, the packages that we're going to need to have installed, you want to have Podman, Podman Compose, and pwgen. You can use Docker if you like. That's up to you. Pwgen is a command line application for creating passwords, and we'll be using that in a script that I've written. And what you'll see here is I'm actually on nixos, so I actually did a video about setting Podman up rootlessly on nixos, so you can follow along with that. And you can install pwgen with the home manager on nixos. Otherwise, if you're on another Linux distro, just install it with your, what do you call those things? It's been so long since I've used, things like apt, pacman, that sort of thing, package manager, that's it. So the ports that you're going to want to have open for this to work are 3000 and 8082, and those are TCP ports. So what I'm just going to do is actually come across to my nixos config here. Ports. Okay, so what you'll see here in my nixos config is networking firewall allowed TCP ports 3000 and 8082, and you want to do a nixos doas nixos rebuild switch to actually rebuild the system to open those ports. But if you're on another Linux distro, you can use something like gufw, which is a front end to the firewall. Most Linux, Debian and Ubuntu distributions use something like UFW, and gufw is the graphical front end for that. So first of all, as I said, make sure you've got Podman, Podman Composed, pwgen installed, or Docker. Open the ports in your firewall. Now what we're going to be doing is actually creating the directory structure for this. And this is important because the instructions for Nvidius recommend you actually downloading the Git repository and editing the Docker Compose file and creating passwords that you'll add to that Docker Compose file. Now, the issue with doing it that way is that two issues. One is that you won't be able to do a git pull because you will have changed the Docker Compose file. So you'll get a message saying, Git repository is dirty. So you've got that issue. And secondly, if you do actually want to do an update, you have to discard your changes, replace the original Docker Compose file and pull it down again. The second issue is that you'll have your passwords in the compose.yml file, the Docker Compose YAML file, which means that you won't be able to upload it to GitHub because it will have your passwords in. So what we're going to be doing, setting up this directory structure. Let me switch across to the terminal actually. Podman. So you've got invidious-podman here. So what we're going to be doing is creating a directory called invidious-podman. Let me just come into the invidious-podman directory. And what you'll see here is we have 2 files and 1 directory. So what we're going to be doing is, first of all, make directory -p invidious-podman. I have a podman directory in my home folder, and in that folder I have the invidious-podman directory. We then change into that invidious-podman directory and we clone the Nvidius Git repository. So you can see here the invidious-podman directory and then Nvidius. So the reason why I've called it invidious-podman is so you don't actually confuse it with the Nvidius Git repository here. And what you'll see in this repository is it comes with a docker compose.yml file that we're not actually going to be using. We're not actually going to be editing that file at all. We're creating our own compose.yml file outside the Git repository with a start-invidious script. So that's the next step. Create the invidious-podman directory, change into it, clone the Nvidius repository. Next step is we're going to be creating the compose.yml file inside the podman directory. So let me just take you across and show you that. So have some tea there. So this is from the I think, where's the documentation link? Documentation. Okay, so installation. Okay, so this is the docker compose.yml file that it actually suggests here. And what you'll see here is it has these sections where it says change me, and it actually expects you to create a password that you would put in this file. But I'm doing it a slightly different way. So if we have a look down here, first of all, we've got the ports. So first of all, if you're going to be using this and wanting to access it across your local network, you're going to want to remove the 127.0.0.1 colon and just leave 3000:3000, and this will make it accessible on your local network. So the next thing we have down here is what I've done is, you can see here we've got Nvidius companion key, and then we have this $ curly braces Nvidius companion key, and down here for the Hamac key as well, Nvidius Hamac key. And further down here we have server secret key, Nvidius companion key. Now the documentation will actually tell you what you have to do is actually use this pwgen password generating application on the command line to create a password for both the Hamac key and the Nvidius companion. So if I run pwgen 16-1, you can see it's going to spit out a key here. So instead of us actually hard coding the password in this file, what we're going to be doing is actually using environmental variables with a startup script that will generate them and pass them as environmental variables to Nvidius. So these are the 3 changes here I've made. The Nvidius companion key is using the environmental variable Nvidius companion key. The Hamac key is using Nvidius Hamac key. And the server secret key is using the Nvidius companion key. Now, the other thing that I've actually changed down here is you'll see the volumes. And what I've done is I've prepended Nvidius to these volumes down here, because by default it's set to configure SQL and Docker in Nvidius DB sh. And those correspond, if we come in here, you'll see we have a Docker folder here. So that's what it's actually referring to. So what this allows us to do is actually create the compose.yml file outside of the Nvidius repository, so that we're able to actually do a git pull on the Nvidius Git repository and not have any issues. And then the next thing is the startup script. So what we're going to do is actually create a script called start-invidious. And what you'll see here is this is a shell script, bin.sh. And what we have here is two variables, secret companion key and secret hamac key. And what they do is they run pwgen 16-1 like we did in the terminal and store that result in the variable. Okay, so we then have this section down here, invidious companion key equals secret companion key, invidious hamac key equals secret hamac key, and then podman-compose up-d. So these Nvidius companion key here and the Nvidius hamac key correspond to these in the compose.yml file, as you can see here. So once we've got that set up, we just need to make that script executable. So to start Nvidius, all we need to do is run start-invidious. And the first time you do this, it's going to pull down all the containers and everything and start it up. Now, the thing that had me stumped using Nvidius the first time, okay, is when you log in, you select login and you go to add a username and password, you'll actually get a captcha that is in the form of a clock showing you hours, minutes, and seconds in an analog clock. And what you'll have is a little text box that says hours, minutes, and seconds. And what you have to do to authenticate for the captcha is put in the hours, minutes, and seconds listed in the clock. So, for example, just close this a second, or we'll switch to a new tab. Suppose you had, say, 7:45 and 55 seconds in an analog clock. That was what you'd have to put in. So you'd actually get this little captcha that looks like this. I think it's minutes, seconds like this. So what you have to do is you put in, it should just be 7:45, 55 like that for the captcha. And that was really confusing to me the first time I sort of tried to actually log in. So that's how you log in to Nvidius. That's how you start it up. And then when you want to stop Nvidius, you just go into the invidious-podman directory and run podman compose down. If you want to actually remove the Nvidius volumes to actually rebuild it from scratch, you can run podman compose down -- rmi all -- volumes, and that will remove all the Nvidius volumes, and then you run the startup script again and it will just pull everything down fresh. And you can also do podman compose pull, podman compose up, and podman image prune to update the Nvidius containers. So that's how you get everything set up. And as I said, you can export your YouTube subscriptions. I think you have to go to Google Takeaway from memory to export your YouTube subscriptions. We just have some more tea. So what are some of the differences with this? See, this is Nvidius running in EWW in Emacs. So I can actually, you can see here, I'm not logged in Emacs, but you can see here all the videos come up, and you can actually play these using MPV from within Emacs. You obviously you can't play the video in Emacs unless you've got X widgets installed, I think. But this will also work with terminal applications like W3M. So you can actually use W3M to access Nvidius on the command line. And then it's possible to define a player with W3M, such as MPV, to open the videos. So let's have a quick shifty at the difference between YouTube and Nvidius. So typically, you've got your home here and you've got your subscriptions. So when you come across your subscriptions, it's just going to show you the channels that you've actually subscribed to, such as down here. When you come to home, what will happen is you will get recommendations. Like if you've viewed like an old war movie or something, you're going to suddenly start getting loads of these kind of recommendations coming up like this. You know, here's something on planes, and here's another old war movie, Death Train, all that kind of stuff. So you'll actually get recommendations based on what you viewed. You don't get that with Nvidius. You only actually get the subscriptions, the channels you've actually subscribed to listed here. So you can see I've got subscriptions. You can have playlists, so you can actually subscribe to playlists as well. You've got popular, which I think still shows you your subscriptions that your subscription-based videos and channels down here. And then I think trending is just trending on YouTube. We've got default music, gaming, movies. So if I come across to movies, you can see here's trending movies, that sort of thing. It's dead easy to subscribe to something. So if I wanted to subscribe to, say, Network Chuck, search for Network Chuck, come across down here. I'm actually subscribed. I'll unsubscribe. Subscribe. Now you're subscribed. I won't mention this bit here, but you can see what it says. And I think there's actually a way you can actually manage subscriptions. Yeah, if you come across to manage subscriptions, what you'll see is a list of all your subscriptions here. And you can export, import, and export. So this is the import section where you can import Nvidius, JSON. So you can actually export your subscriptions as OPML or JSON. And you can import your YouTube CSV or OPML subscriptions by browsing to it. You've got various other things you can actually import from FreeTube, NewPipe, such as, I don't use those, but you can import from those if you want. So really dead easy to get set up. You've got, what's this, toggle theme. You've got your subscriptions notifications here, the settings, so that's the preferences. And again, the only thing that I would recommend changing is the player style from Nvidius to YouTube. So you have the little button in the middle. Then you've got the content country, which is by default set to US. So that might be an interesting thing to see. Okay, YouTube movies. Okay, yeah. So if you're on YouTube and you use a VPN to the US, you can watch YouTube movies from the US when you're in another country. But that doesn't seem to work in here, so maybe I'll need to actually start up the VPN and then switch to YouTube movies. But as you can see, really nice. Let's see, everything is black and white. Okay, so why is that doing that? Okay, could not be loaded. Let's try and find another one. Okay, that's come up. So let me add more tea. I won't play this one because maybe sort of copyright issues. But you can see the difference between the Nvidius player and the YouTube player is the Nvidius player has the button up here for some reason. I really don't know. Whereas the YouTube player has the button in the middle where you'll be used to it. So let's have a look and see if we can find another video. Okay, there we go. So what I'm just going to do is come across and show you a comparison between YouTube and is this scheduled? Oh yeah, it's okay. So this hasn't actually started as yet. So let me just come back to here. Right.
Oh my God.
Okay. Sometimes what happens with YouTube is when you go to play the video and you've got uBlock Origin installed, you'll get a little spinner above the YouTube button. And it will take a second for it to actually kick in. And I was just trying to see if I could actually trigger that. Yeah, here we go. I know.
Oh my God.
Sometimes it'll do that for like 20 or 30 seconds before it actually plays the video. Just come in here.
Oh,
so you can see
God.
that's just like instant. It kicks in instantly. You can select the resolution you want to use here, the quality. You got the pop-up. So yeah, it's basically YouTube without the ads. You'll still get shorts. I haven't figured out how you can actually remove the shorts. There doesn't seem to be an option inside Nvidius that I can see that will allow you to do that. There may be scripts or uBlock Origin filters that you could do to achieve that and actually remove the shorts because they're a bit annoying. But basically, the main difference is with Nvidius, you only actually see what you subscribe to, and you don't actually get pushed a load of stuff every time you've actually watched a video. The other difference is see how I have the cursor over the video here. Typically in YouTube, what happens, I think there is a setting to disable it. But let me see if I can actually find one that's not subscribed to. So what happens sometimes is when you actually hover over a video like this, it may actually come up as you can see it comes up in your history. So what can actually happen is, even though you're not watching that video, sometimes you say you're scrolling down here and your cursor rests on something like that for a second or two. Give it a second or two. No, I didn't leave it long enough. But what will happen is it will actually come up in your history. Then what happens is YouTube will add that to your algorithm and start showing you similar videos that you've actually accidentally sort of moused over. So especially because there's no gutter here when you're actually scrolling up and down. Sometimes you can actually leave your cursor on something And I'm not sure how long it takes for it to actually register. See, I'll just leave this for a few seconds more, come back across. No, it didn't kick in. But that's another issue that you can sometimes find. You're scrolling down like this and it will actually start playing the video like this, and this will then actually count as something in your history, and you'll then be recommended more videos based on that, even though you haven't actually watched the video. You just accidentally scrolled over it. So like, let's see how long this takes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Leave this for a few seconds. It's quite easy to also just accidentally have your cursor hovering over something like this. Let's see if that registered long enough. No, but you can see that one did there. So that's another issue you get with, see, you'll suddenly start getting things recommended based on things you accidentally hovered over. Whereas in Nvidius, you don't actually have it's called the storyboard. It's actually I think it's a WebM series of frames, but you don't actually get that in Nvidius. You don't actually have a little player come up as you scroll over something that I can see. So that's another advantage. And so it's really, really nice, really quick. So you can see how quick it is to actually scroll through, go to the pages, and you can see here, feed subscriptions, page 3. I think it's an infinite scroll on YouTube, isn't it? So you have a infinite scroll. Let me come across to subscription, see if you actually get pagination on this. I think this is just an infinite scroll that's actually just going to keep scrolling. So you can see the URL doesn't actually change. You just get this infinite scroll where it keeps loading stuff. Whereas on Nvidius, what you have is next page. So you can actually bookmark stuff. I think you can also set this as a search engine. So let's see here if this works. Add search engine Nvidius. So, okay. So I thought there was a way you can actually add Nvidius. Okay. So you could probably, let's see if we can actually get this working. So let's search for Adam Pearson. Okay. So what we have here is a search query. So let's try adding this manually to Firefox. So what we want is this section here. And let's come across and see if we can actually add this as a search engine. Okay. Okay, so Invidious. And what we need is the %s at the end. So %s, and we'll call this invid. Okay. So what we should be able to do now is, let's see if that works. Adam Pearson. There we go. So we can have a search that comes up in the Firefox bar up here. What you can also do is you do @invid like that in search for Nvidius, magpie channel. So you've got two ways of doing it. Yeah. So you can either do it from the URL bar or the search bar. So from the URL bar, what you need is to set the, should that have the @ sign? Okay. Right, so let's do that again. @invid, Rubenstein. There we go. So you can search using the URL bar up here or the search box up here. Okay, and I just accidentally clicked on the filters here. You can see the filters. So you can actually filter stuff. So you can actually filter stuff the same way you would on YouTube, by the upload date, the length, channels, playlists, upload date, all that kind of stuff. So that's how you get the search set up for Nvidius, so that you can actually search directly from the browser instead of actually having to open Nvidius. So again, we just selected that there. Nvidius is going to come up and search for that. Or we can do @invid and Newcastle United. And it'll do exactly the same thing, except using the URL bar instead. So let's have a recap, just in case you've forgotten how to set all this up. And as I said, if you're using Docker, there's one thing you're going to need to do, and that's change the startup script. So as you can see here, I've got the 2 files and the Git repository for Nvidius. If you're using Docker, edit the start-invidious script and just change podman compose to Docker compose. That's it. So let's have a quick recap over this. So packages you're going to want to have are podman, podman compose, and pwgen, or Docker and Docker compose. You're going to want to open ports 3000 and 8082. So 3000 is the Nvidius web UI, whereas 8082 is actually the Nvidius companion app. That is another container that is used to actually get this working. The directory structure, mkdir-p invidious-podman. You can call it whatever you want, but the Git repository is called Nvidius, so it's better to give the containing folder a different name so that you don't get confused. So create the Nvidious-podman directory, change into it, run git clone for the Nvidius Git repository. It takes a minute. After you've done that, just copy the compose.yml file into the Nvidious-podman directory. Copy the startup script in there. I'll give you links to this so that it's already executable, but just double check to make sure. Then just run /invidious like that. First time you do it, it's going to pull everything down. Won't take longer than 10 minutes. And then what you need to do is actually log in. So the URL is 127.0.0.1 3000. And remember the note about the captcha. When you first log in, when you first go to it, you go log in to create a new account. You're going to get that captcha that is going to show you an analog clock with hours, minutes, and seconds. And you'll have a little text box done underneath. And you just need to put in the hours, minutes, and seconds and click OK. And that's it. That's you logged in. To bring it down, you just run podman compose down. Couldn't be easier. And then all you need to do is actually search for stuff. So if you wanted to search for, say, DistroTube, something like that, come across DistroTube, just click subscribe. What you'll also see is you actually get an RSS feed for this. So you can actually create RSS feeds for all the subscriptions, all the channels, for the playlists, and then use those RSS feeds in an RSS feed reader like Newsboat on the command line, or EL feed, which is an Emacs RSS reader. Just finish the tea off. So that's another nice advantage, is to actually get the RSS feeds for YouTube. It's a right pain in the arse. So if I come across here, from memory, what you have to do is you've got to do view source and then search for channel ID. Let's spell channel properly. Channel ID. And I still didn't spell it properly. Yeah. You can see the channel ID there. And then what you have to do is you have to create these URLs for, let me see if I've got one. Personal feeds. Okay. Yeah, so the feeds for YouTube look like this. YouTube.com feeds, video.xml, channel ID, and then you've got to get the ID by viewing the source. And the same thing for the playlist, so it's not terribly convenient. Whereas on Nvidius, you've just got the RSS feed here. If I click that, it should... Okay, so when I click that, it's actually downloaded it. So what you want to do is copy the link. If I go into downloads, you'll see the actual feed there. So that's the actual feed coming up, and you can see here, got the ID, yeah, the URL, and the description as well. So if you've got a feed reader that supports that, you will actually get that description come up in the feed reader as well. So you don't want to click it to download the file. You actually want to copy the URL and then put that URL in your feed reader. So I hope that helps you get set up with Nvidius. There are one or two things that had me stumped for a while. What actually had me stumped was this section here. Okay. The private URL companion. What was happening was I couldn't get this to work. I had the, I was putting the keys in here for like the Invidious companion key in double quotes. And what was happening was I was getting an error saying the password's got to be 16 characters long and can only be alphanumeric. And what I figured out was it was actually the double quotes around the password that were causing the issue. Then I was using the environmental variables here, but I was using them in double quotes, and that was causing the issue. And what would happen is the video wouldn't actually play in the browser. It would say it couldn't connect to the companion app, which is another container that actually gets started when you run Nvidius. So once I removed the double quotes around these environmental variables here, everything worked. So in my opinion, this is a better way to set this up, because the advantage is, as say, you're not editing the Docker Compose file inside the Git repository, which means that you wouldn't be able to do a Git pull to get the latest version of Nvidius, because you'd change the file in the Git repository and you would have to revert it to the original file and then do a Git pull and then change it again. Secondly, if we come in here, this is what had me confused, is in the actual example here, you would think that you actually had to edit the text inside the double quotes, and that's what had me stumped. So because we're using the environmental variables in the startup script, you don't have any passwords actually hard-coded into the compose.yml file, so you can upload it to GitHub without any issues. And the startup script basically creates two environmental variables, secret companion key secret Hamac key, and then runs pwgen 16.1. So every time you start this up, it's going to create the secret keys needed as environmental variables, and those will be passed to Nvidius when you run podman compose up-d. So you can see here, Nvidius companion key equals secret companion key, Nvidius Hamac key equals secret Hamac key, and those correspond to these two variables we've set up. So that's it. That's all you've got to do. So again, to start this up, you just run start-invidious. To bring it down, you just run podman compose down or docker compose down, and that's it. So literally, this should take you about 10 minutes to get set up, pulling everything down from the Git repository and all the containers. Log in, add your subscriptions, and you're good to go. Let's see, that should... Okay, this was shared 2 hours ago, so there we go. Bang, you can see how fast that is to start up. Kicks in straight away, and as I said, also works with MPV. Give it a second or two, as it takes longer to start with MPV. Okay, there we go.
Long back.
Yeah.
And not mentioned once, didn't mention
Okay,
it.
so that's the team review. So I'll put links to all this under the video, and hope that helps you get set up. Should literally take you 10 minutes at the most to get everything going. And then you'll have your own version of YouTube without the ads, without all the recommendations, only the videos and channels that you subscribe to. So that's all for now. As I said, I'll put links to everything under the video to help you out.